Welcome to Do It in Durham 2021. Now in its 9th year, Do It in Durham is an event series that takes place during Global Entrepreneurship Week. It is Durham Region's own forum to celebrate, inspire, and support entrepreneurship. Stay tuned as we bring on our presenter.
So most of you know it is Do It in Durham Week, and it takes place during Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is Durham Region's own forum to celebrate, inspire, and support entrepreneurship. This year, 2021, our theme is riding the waves. So just like surfing, businesses need to be able to ride the waves, fight the sharks, and find that perfect wave. The event series is a collaboration of organizations and resources for businesses in Durham Region in partnership with business owners and entrepreneurs sharing their expertise. Thank you to our 2021 sponsors and community partners. Without their help and support, we wouldn't be able to do this without them. And thank you for spreading the word amongst your networks as well. I want to mention that one of our sponsors is kindly offering Durham Region business owners a 1-week drop-in period, which ends on Friday. And that sponsor is 1855 Whitby. So you can find the information there right on the slide if you are interested in popping by. And last but not least, I want to welcome Sherry, the founder of Sozo Media, and thank you for being here with us this morning. And hopefully I said it right, but I will pass it along to you, Sherry.
Yes, no problem. If you can see my cursor, I'm like, I have 2 displays going on here, and now I'm like, I can't get my cursor back. Hold on, give me a second. I am Sherry. Yes, that's the correct pronunciation. Just give me a sec. There we go. All right, we are good to go now. Thank you for that introduction, Ashley. And thank you to BACD for giving me this opportunity, and all of you taking time out of your morning to be with us. And for those of you who watch later online, welcome again. And so I thought I would do a little bit of an introduction about me. Yes, my spelling is a little odd, so I like to kind of give you a little reminder. Either think of the wine, sherry, or I have a little emoji there, a strawberry. And I am located in the Durham region in Canada, in Pickering. So actually what I would love, I think some of you have already shared, if you're able, jump in the chat, say where you're from. I'm curious to see if we're in different time zones. Maybe it's not early where you're at. Ajax, perfect. We might all be very close neighbors. Little Britain, Ontario. I don't know where that is. I need to look that up now. Oshawa, Ajax would be, yeah. So great. We have lots of people in the Durham area, in Ontario, Port Perry, great. So early mornings for us all. So a little bit more about me. I am a brand and website strategist. I am the founder and creative director of Sozo Media. It's a branding studio, and how we kind of differentiate ourselves is in a world of copycats. We specialize in branding entrepreneurs so they can be themselves and be in demand through personality-filled branding and websites. So what that really looks like tangibly is branding and websites that use your voice, your vision, your visuals, and how that all sounds, looks, feels like you, but also works for you. And so I'll kind of go into why that kind of matters in the context of our presentation, but also why that can have an impact in your business overall. So, excuse me, I'm probably gonna have to take lots of sips of water and coffee, since I'll be talking for a little bit. But when I talk about personality-filled branding, what that really means from our perspective in our studio is branding from the inside out. And so traditional marketing, especially from decades ago, is very much identify your target market, figure out your niche, and then cater and craft all your marketing, your messaging, your vision, your logos, all that, your look and feel, so that it attracts them. And while I still believe there's value in that, and especially with larger corporations, that definitely is a great approach. I've just found in the era of social media, people are craving personal connection. They want to make a difference in this world. And so that's why branding from the inside out is so important. You started your business with a vision. You started your business with a mission. And so you have that desire to help others, to bring a little cheer. In the case of Mary's case, she's making people's lives a little bit sweeter, which I love. And so it's all about letting that shine and come through, because when you have a story and a message to share, people are more drawn to that. So what that really translates to is really starting with your brand heart. So you may have heard of brand strategy, and that's really, again, we're trying to figure out what you're all about, what your core message is, what your story is, what your mission, vision, values, all that, because that's what's going to carry you through. As Ashley was saying, the waves of entrepreneurship, it's hard. You fall off the surfboard. But if you have that brand heart just clarified and super strong and pumping blood, you have that solid foundation to fall back on when you're trying to go left when everyone's going right. Like, I mean, even with the pandemic, everybody, that word pivots, it's come out for a reason. And I think sometimes we can be pretty quick to get caught in that current rather than riding our own wave. And so that's why I truly believe starting with your brand heart is going to have so much impact in your business, and then how that can translate into your website and all your marketing as well. So then what that looks like next, and that next step of really trying to brand from the inside out, now that you've really gone deep, you then work towards how your heart can translate to your messaging. And that's your brand voice. So really, again, tying in the story, tying in the emotion behind your vision, your brand heart, how your messaging can make sure that it coincides and aligns with what you're all about and where you want to take your business and the type of people you want to reach. Then the last part is what we often start with. I know I have in the past myself, the visuals. That's like your logos, your colors, your patterns. And it's so important. I mean, I'm a brand strategist. I'm not going to say, well, you know, looks don't matter. They do matter. But you want all of that to work together with common themes, common messages, again, that common story. So people are like, yes, I want what she's all about. I want what this business is all about. So it's really about starting with you as the visionary. Again, when we talk about big corporations, Walmart, all that, it's very different. We're entrepreneurs. We have that heart. We have that vision. We've started our business for a reason. So it's often why I actually don't recommend doing this on your own. I've done it myself. When you try to figure out what your brand heart is and then how that translates into all those other parts, you don't see your blind spots, or you might be missing things that are really special about you that you kind of downplay. And so it's why it's so important to have someone on the outside to objectively listen to you, listen to your heart, to really draw that out of you. And so it's why, again, I really encourage like approaching your business and your brand from a really like deep dive. It's so easy, especially when we're starting our business, to think about all the things we have to do. Well, I need a website. I need to look credible. I need to get my bank accounts all set up. There's just so much technical and logistical stuff to set up that it's easier sometimes to kind of focus on that. But again, when you don't have that core identity established, you get tossed with the waves and you want to ride your own wave. So I know I've kind of like, again, laid that little bit of a foundation just on my personal philosophy on branding. We're going to touch on now how that all translates into your website and building a website that can actually boost your brand. But I thought I would take a moment now to see if there's any questions. We will have a chance at the end to do like an open forum hot seat Q&A. So again, you can hold your questions till then, but I know how easy it is to kind of lose your thought or lose your question. Oh, and it looks like I have my PowerPoint just crashed. So perfect time, ask your questions in the chat. I am here. And while you're waiting patiently for me to load this back up, I'll see if in the chat you have any questions. So again, anything to do with branding, in the case, like specifically the philosophy that I was talking about, and really branding from the inside out. All right, Ashley, I already have a question. What about someone like myself with a brand behind me? For example, I am with Dominion Lending Centers, but I want me to come out. Yes. So this is actually really common. And I'm thinking of like a lot of companies who we do sales for on behalf of, or perhaps you actually have a franchise as well. So I will get to that question. Let me just get this presentation back up. My Zoom, let's see. Okay, so this is where you can truly shine, Ashley. You still want to be true to what that company or that brand, what they want to, oh, sorry, getting ahead of myself. What they want you to kind of represent as a business, but there's nothing stopping you from really standing out and shining. I think what you can do is let your personality like shine out, especially in social media, in the way you write, in the way you approach things. We all have our unique approaches. Like I've even talked about how I approach branding with my clients in my own business. You have a philosophy. So regardless of if you're in the context of a huge corporation, a huge brand, you still have a philosophy of how you carry out your business, how you interact your clients. You have your own values. And as long as there's still, they honor the main brand and the main franchise, whatever that may be, I feel like you have a lot of freedom to let your personality shine. Especially like, I think MLMs get a lot of bad rap. I have no really opinion on that. I think a lot of people can do a lot of good with them, but that's a similar situation where let your personality, your story, your values shine. Your customer service, how you create that whole brand experience is unique to you, and you can rise above the masses because of what you have to bring.
Hi, Carrie, I just wanted to interrupt. Sorry, your screen isn't in full screen mode.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
Let me, all righty. I'm going to stop this and share it properly now. There we go. Now you don't have to see all my notes there, which I'm not even really following. All right. That was a great question, Ashley. If you have anything else to add, but otherwise I can move on now. And again, hold your questions till the end too, and we can chat through things at the end. But I hope that was helpful, Ashley. So to make sure you're in the right place, I always like to ask some probing questions to kind of get your wheels churning. And sorry, I'm going to move this over now because now everything's switched around. Here we go. I might look a little off now. So the first question I want to ask you is, do you worry that your website could be leaving a bad impression with your potential leads? So sometimes I think we can put so much energy, so much time, so much effort into our website, and then we kind of get crickets, or it's not producing the results we thought we hope it would. And so you kind of start to doubt yourself and wonder, ooh, am I doing this right? Is this the right approach? But don't worry, I hear that a lot. It's a common theme with my clients, with a lot of people that I talk to. So you're definitely not alone. We all struggle with those things. Another question I want to ask you is, are you wanting to build a captivating brand, but not sure how websites and marketing really all play that part? It can get really all messy when we talk about brands, branding, website, marketing, social media, SEO. It can all start to blur together. It can be a lot to juggle. I mean, even throw social media into the mix and it just feels like we're spreading ourselves so thin and trying to do it all and wear all the hats. But can you imagine what it would feel like if you had your website bringing you leads or sales, depending on if you're a product-based business, on autopilot, knowing that it's leaving your visitors wanting more? It's not too good to be true. I mean, I have my own story behind this and my own revelations of how this came to be. So what you're all here for, the 3 ways to build a brand boosting website. So I am going to walk you through 3 core areas to focus on so that you can build trust, you can earn the confidence of your consumers, your website visitors, and you can grow those customers. And because I talk about how your website can break your brand as well, I'm going to talk about things not to do so that you don't leave a bad taste with your website visitors, because that's the last thing we want to do. Because if I'm going to be honest, if you have a website and it's a poor experience, it's better to not have one. You want to make sure your whole experience with your brand is a positive one. So after today's training, I trust that you're going to walk away with a more comprehensive outlook on how you should focus more on your brand when designing and building out and investing in your website, so that it ultimately brings you more of your dream clients. All right, let's keep going. So as I kind of alluded to, let's just say I didn't always have this figured out. My own approach to my own clients, even my own website, my own business, was very much focusing on only the layout, the design, being a graphic designer myself, which is definitely a passion of mine, and getting lost in the tech of things, like what's the right theme, what's the right platform, what's the right host. And I got really lost in that it was costing me and my clients sales, connections, conversions, because again, I wasn't looking at it holistically. And, you know, at the end of the day, yes, we're here about sales and making more money and more profit in our business. But I think if we're honest with ourselves as entrepreneurs, we're really about something more. We value connections, and I want it to be more than just a transaction on a website. I want it to be an experience that, they can walk away feeling a certain feeling because I've been so intentional in building my brand out in all the little touch points. So when it comes to creating a brand boosting website, I do know what it's like to overcome the struggle of like, where the heck do I start? I had that a decade ago when I started this journey. And I was tempted to look at everybody else and say, well, okay, they look like they're doing something right. I'm going to copy them. And this is also similar where we have the problems with like website feeds, because we think we're doing something good. We think it looks so visually pleasing that it's going to be a good website for me. It's going to produce results. But there are these key aspects when looking at our website that we need to address in terms of our brand so that that whole experience actually brings you sales. Because, you know, I've been designing websites for a long time, and it's really only in the last couple of years that I've shifted my methodology. Again, I've mentioned on starting out as a graphic designer, and I am a brand designer, and I very much was obsessed with the wrong things. But I hadn't tapped into really what makes a website wow, but also work. That's what we want for your website. And we also want it to wow your audience and work for your audience as well, your website visitors. So in other words, the whole goal is, well, how do I get these lovely strangers landing on my website to like what they see, resonate with it, connect with my business, and take action? Because action is actually going to be what brings you those leads, those connections, those sales, those purchases. And that's why we want to be intentional in how we bring them into our brand through our website. Okay, so kind of brought it down a little bit there, going on and on about how, well, this is what I wasn't doing and it wasn't really working. But it clicked when I started to look at how my brand played a role in my website. I started to infuse my brand, my personal philosophy, my personality, and leads and sales started to take an upward trend. I discovered that there's actually a human psychology, how you can leverage natural human behavior to get them to actually take action on your website so that your website actually works for you. And so while working for you, you also get the added benefit of enhancing the customer experience so that they have a positive experience with you and become like raving loyal fans, which grows your circle and your network of word of mouth and people hearing about you. And again, continually developing your brand and developing your sales. So since I flipped the switch, website visitors are now engaged instantly. As soon as they land on the page, they know, yep, I'm in the right place. And they also stay on the page longer. And so that, again, we want that on your website. If people are apt to just bounce and to take off as soon as they land on your website, you need to look critically as to what's going on and what's not keeping them. Because if they stay on your page longer, if they click through, if they navigate, they're more likely to take the next step. We want them to take the ultimate desired action on that website, whether it's to book a call with us or make a purchase. Whatever that is, we don't want to just create and launch a website because we feel we need an online presence. That's only part of the equation. So yes, in my personal business with my clients, I really started seeing success and growth because I was creating websites from a brand building perspective versus just merely a marketing perspective, which is pretty self-focused. So today I will be sharing with you, again, I've alluded to it a few times, the 3 ways you can either boost or break your brand or break it through your website. But I've been throwing the word brand a lot. And while I walk us through how we can tangibly work those out in our website, I do want to kind of get a feel for the room, see what people think about the word brand. So I have my phone off to the side here. I can see your comments. So if you want to jump in the chat, what do you think of when you hear the word brand? Because a lot of people say a lot of different things. Even different CEOs of different companies you've heard them say different quotes about what your brand is. So I'm curious if anyone has any personal thoughts on that, any ideas. Nicole says personality, colors, style, logo. Yep, that's definitely a part of your brand. I'll just wait a few more seconds, see if anyone else jumps in, because I love hearing what everybody else says, because I could just talk on forever. But philosophy, values, yeah, great. Values and personality, what they stand for, yeah. Nicole says what you say and how you say it, yeah. Business identity, amazing, yeah. I think you all have a great core understanding of what a brand is. So I thought maybe I could kind of like flip it too and get you to think of it in a more concrete way, because there is so much packed into the word brand. So what I like to do is, okay, let's start with the action of it. So if we think, well, what is a brand? Brand is the noun, it is a thing. If we think about the action, the verb of it, branding is developing characteristics and elements, so that could be visual, messaging, whatever, your website even, that gives your company a personality. We've had a few people touch on that, a voice, and attributes, characteristics like we talked about, like human attributes, feelings, things like that, that set you apart from other companies. And so it's really having the visuals, the vision, the heart, and the voice that all come into play that again sets you apart from everybody else. So even in the context of, I think it was Ashley, you were asking about maybe being the small fish in a bigger pond with representing another brand or another company, you still have something that can set you apart and help distinguish you in your business. So what I'd love to kind of summarize all that is your brand is the experience and reputation of your business. And so why I want to make that clear, because again, as I walk through all the kind of 3 core areas that you can look at when building out, designing, focusing on your website, when I use the word brand, I want you to exchange it in your mind with the word reputation, your business reputation. So think of the title of today's training. It is how a website can boost or break your brand. So that actually just means, well, how can your website boost your business reputation? Or maybe on the flip side, unfortunately, how is your website breaking your business reputation? So again, there's a lot that can be packed into the word brand, but really it's the reputation, because it's how you're being perceived and it's the experience that your consumers, your clients, your customers all have when they interact with any part of you. All righty, let me just take a sip. Been talking a few minutes there. Okay, so why do we care about how our brand is impacted by our website? I mean, what you have to consider is that when it comes to your brand, your business reputation, it often comes to play for the first time online. I mean, think about it, we're often on our couches, probably in our PJs, and we're on any website. We might be interacting with that brand or business for the first time. Maybe we found them through a referral. And again, we're in the comfort of our own home. Maybe we're in a coffee shop, very just laid back. We're not necessarily seeking a solution or seeking something, but we're just kind of browsing. And so because it's often statistically the first time someone has a true experience with your brand, when they don't personally know you, it's so important to see how your brand plays in that. And Also, your website is just one part of your whole brand ecosystem, telling a collective story. And that story should be telling other people how you stand out, what sets you apart, as we talked about, how your business is different, and why people should engage with you over quote unquote competition. Sidebar here, I don't love the word competition. I think that instills kind of a negative connotation where maybe we think we have to compete with other people. But I think that's what the power of branding is that you don't have to compete. You have a unique vision, value, positioning. You have this space that's yours and yours alone. And when you find that space, you attract those people. So I don't typically see it as competition when it comes in terms of entrepreneurs. I mean, there could be two people selling chocolate and you could be doing it with very different approaches. So that's why you want your website to be telling that collective story about that whole experience of what you have to offer and why you're different. Another thing is really marketing is most effective when it's backed by a brand worthy of connection. People talk about websites as a great marketing tool, and they're completely right. Websites are a great way to bring you traffic, to get people through the door, even if they don't walk into your physical door or get into your inbox. It's that first introduction often, and it is an effective tool, but it needs to have that foundation to work within that whole ecosystems. And really, gone are the days of the sleazy sales tactics. When we think of marketing from like maybe 10, 20 years ago, oftentimes you could see stuff that was very predatory. You still even see that nowadays, but now people are jaded. They have been disenfranchised and they have been almost put off by businesses that they just see as trying to get a quick buck out of their expense and not even for their benefit. So consumers want to know that you have their best interests at heart. And when they feel like they can trust you, they take that next step in their brand awareness customer journey to see what you have, what you have to offer, and then make that next step to purchase or engage with you, whatever that looks like. Now, a standalone marketing perspective could damage your reputation for all the things that I mentioned. Because if marketing is what leads people to you, if your website is what helps bring people into your kind of digital online space, then it's your brand that's actually going to be the thing that helps them take that action and keep coming back for more and tell others about you. So let me contrast the differences between the marketing kind of approach when building a website and that brand building lens. And so again, marketing, very traditional. It often starts with, sorry, let me get to the next slide. There we go. Very focused on information. And what that comes across as is kind of dry, not very personal, not very engaging. But if you approach building your website or even any aspect of your business through a brand building lens, then you're very much focused on storytelling. It's evocative. It stirs up emotion inside you. It stirs action. And then back to marketing, often it's very company focused, company obsessed, self-focused, and it comes across as really out of touch. I think you can just think of all the kind of PR nightmares that have been out there. There's some going on right now, and all these insincere apologies and things like that, because they're just so focused on their own selves that it puts people off, it puts consumers off, and they just want to go run the other direction. But on the flip side, when we look at it from a brand building perspective, you're now obsessed about your customer. You're obsessed about your consumer. It's all about what you can bring to the table for them. And that's engaging. When people, like I've touched on, you have their best interests at heart, they're going to pick up on them. They're going to feel that sincerity. And so that last point, very focused on sales, money, profit. I mean, with our labor shortage that's going on in Canada and Ontario right now, people are done with the traditional way of treating employees and customers. When you're so driven by profit, it's insincere, it's inconsiderate, it's selfish, and people want nothing to do with that anymore. People want to live happy, healthy, full lives. And so again, that's why it's so important to move to that brand building perspective, so that again, you're relying on connection. Your goal is not really sales. Sales become a product, the fruit, when you have that connection, because it's personal and people are more likely to engage with your website and your brand and your business when you approach it from that brand building lens. Okay, going to take another break here to take a sip. If there are any questions, let's leave it on this slide. Trying to let someone in, sorry. There we go. Thank you, Ashley. I think you let them in. If there are any questions up until this point, ask them now. I don't want to lose my voice throughout all of this. Anything about kind of the differences between marketing and brand building? So let me preface this to say, I don't want to confuse you necessarily that marketing is a bad thing, because marketing in and of itself is powerful. It's really the tools that you're using to leverage your brand to get sales. So really what I want to distinguish here is the approach, kind of the focus. I think because marketing was born out of the need for producing those sales and bringing people in and bringing up conversions and things like that, all very good things for your business. And at the end of the day, we want profitable businesses. But when that becomes our focus, that can take away from the experience of our brand. So that's why I'm kind of encouraging you in anything, even though today we're talking about websites, in any decision you make in your business, really challenge yourself. Am I approaching this from a marketing lens or a brand building lens, which is all about connection? All right, let's move on. All right, so the value of the brand building approach when it comes to your website. So I think you're starting to hopefully pick up that there is value in it. When you do this and you kind of flip the switch and you take on that new lens and put on that new kind of brand building hat, you start to think critically about how your website visitors are going to perceive your business when they land on your website or interact with it in any way. And when you're thinking about how they might be perceiving your business, then you're able to kind of predict, well, how is that going to influence their decisions? Because again, yes, this is from a brand building lens, but at the end of the day, we do want to bring them in the door. We truly believe in what we have to offer is going to bring cheer or joy or sweetness to other people's lives. And so it's all about serving and how can we ensure that the right message and story and heart comes across so that they are led down the right path when they do land on our website. So it's less about information and kind of overwhelming them with details when it comes to your website, or even collecting information, like say your email, if you have a newsletter or anything like that, that you collect emails on your website. But more it's about trying to build the know, like, trust factor, because when you build on that know, like, trust factor when it comes to your brand, then they're more likely to take action on your website, book a call, download a guide, whatever that may be, make a purchase. And when you're building on that, you're actually, again, a byproduct of that, the fruit of that is it's going to maximize sales versus if it was strictly just marketing and you just plop an email subscription box and say, okay, I want your email, sign up. Obviously, very different experiences, going to influence website visitors very differently when you approach it from those two kind of different approaches. So what is the ROI on a brand building website? I know you might be thinking, okay, oh my goodness, like this is so much to take in. This has been decades of my experience and training and development and working with other entrepreneurs that I've come to these realizations and these learnings. But I want to kind of simplify it down for you that really what it's all about when it comes to your website is about optimizing your website for more conversions, a high converting website. So we're getting a little bit technical now, but just like marketing, when branding is done right, it actually does produce an ROI for your business. It may be more difficult to kind of measure, but it all plays in that ecosystem of boosting those conversions on your website. And what a conversion is essentially you look at your website and you figure out and you decide and determine, okay, for my business, for this experience, the ultimate action I want them to take is blank. If it's to book a call with you, that's your primary call to action, your primary objective. So the ultimate conversion is how many people who are landing on the website are actually taking that step. That's that conversion, taking, crossing that bridge from just kind of taking in information and taking that desired step. Because ultimately, when you have more conversions, you have more website visitors taking the desired action. And I wouldn't say there's any one wrong or right call to action or objective for a website. It's all very different. I think that's where kind of marketing does come into play. But whatever you do decide on, make that abundantly clear, because more leads are going, like when more leads come in through the funnel, more leads are taking that next step. You've increased the chances of sales. It's really a numbers game. I hate math, I hate numbers, but I have to admit, this is a numbers game. The more people you get through the door, if any of you have any brick and mortar shops, the more people you can get in, the more sales you can make. It's just statistics. It's no different from your website. But the difference being, if you have a brick and mortar store that just, think of Starbucks, that there's such an ambiance, there's such an experience. You step in and you are almost like you're one with the brand. You're more likely to, maybe I'm going to pick up a mug over here. It has this cute little Starbucks logo or this cute little quote, versus, let's say, a very bland coffee shop that's maybe connected to a gas station. You're in and out. You're not enjoying the experience. You're just there for the coffee. And so that actually does not help boost your sales, because the whole experience is not boosting your brand. And so it's the same way with your website. Think of it as your digital home. If you have a brick and mortar store, or even if you don't, maybe you have an office, think of it as your digital home, and you want to welcome them in. You want them to feel comfortable at home. Tell them, take off your shoes, take off your jacket. That's the kind of experience that you want. Even if your business or your service is maybe not as mission driven in the sense of, let me think, with like coaches or therapists or things like that, all of this still applies. You just tailor it to suit kind of your brand voice and your brand heart. Ashley says, Sherry, I think I need you in my life. I definitely need to redo my website, but get one with the DLC, but it's so bland, generic. On the to-do list for sure. Yeah, you know what? As a website designer myself, I'm going to be the first to say, because again, I truly want what's best for you. We can sometimes get so hung up on our websites, and often it's one of the first things we do with launching our businesses because it's sexy. And you know what? Being online nowadays, looking credible, it is so important. I'm not going to deny that. But there are a lot of new entrepreneurs who will come to me and be like, oh, I have all these things. I want to launch a website. And I do recommend, okay, slow your horses. Iron out what your business is all about, who you want to be within your brand, within your business, and how you want that to translate. And then you're able to kind of fill in those missing gaps and then focus on the marketing aspect. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. All right. Okay. Let me take another sip. I'm again talking nonstop. But now we are focusing on the really tangibles of everything. I know I've been talking through a lot of theory and maybe not as much specific to websites yet, but I really want you to truly understand why this is also important, because I don't hear this message taught or shared a lot. So I think it's so important that we kind of switch the narrative on all marketing, whether it's our social media, our websites, even our stores. Switch the narrative. Let's stop obsessing about ourselves, our businesses, and our sales, and see what can happen when we really put our consumers at the heart of what we're doing. So in terms of your website, tangibly, how do we do that? The first step, the first area that we're going to look at is bring your visitors on a journey. And I've kind of touched on that here or there if you've picked up. So one common mistake that I do see often is don't assume people know what they don't know. And you've probably heard me say this before if you've been on any of my other presentations, but regardless if the person who's landing on your website is a complete stranger they're discovering your business for the first time, or maybe they actually do know you and they're like, you know what, they're right on the cusp of taking that desired action. They still don't know what they don't know. You need to bring them by the hand. You need to guide them, tell them what to do, take them by the hand. When you just plaster all this information, all this content on a website, you're not leading them intentionally. You're now relying on them to make decisions with the very little to no information they have about your service. So that's why we want to be very intentional. That's why you determine the experience you want your visitors to have. Because when you approach it from that perspective, you're now, maybe your website isn't 10 pages, in the terms of like SEO aside, content does help, but maybe you can kind of condense down things so it's a lot easier to digest. So I thought we could do something fun today as I go through each core area, and that is the bad idea, good idea. If you've ever seen Animaniacs, I may be showing my age there. I loved this show when I was a kid. I haven't seen it recently, so maybe it's not very PC friendly, but we're going to do brand busters and brand boosters. So in terms of bringing your visitors on a journey, make the first impression count. I think you've heard that depending on who you ask, what the statistic is, we have anywhere between like 3 to 8 seconds to convince someone to stay on the website. And I think that's like the memory of a goldfish or something. So that's not a lot of time, and we're vying for a lot of attention. So bad idea, brand booster, have a cluttered, unclear hero section. So the hero section is really the area on your website, whether you're on a mobile phone or whether you're on a desktop, whatever the device, that you see for the first time, everything before you scroll. So it does the heavy lifting, because those are the few very valuable seconds where you have to convince them right then and there that they should stay. And so what that means is really figuring out how to create a clear and direct hero section. So figuring out who do you serve and how, and make that abundantly clear when they land on the page. Oh yes, I'm in the right place. This is for me. You also want to speak to more of the transformation of what you have to offer. Don't just speak about the features or deliverables. Again, that's not coming from a consumer focus. What value do you bring to their life? Do you eliminate stress? Do you help them make more money? Do you give them confidence? Do you take away overwhelm? Do you give them back more time? Stress those transformations from the get-go. And that's why the hero section is so important. And when you approach it from, okay, well, now I'm looking at what's the true transformation that my client or customer is going to experience. And again, they're going to land on there and be like, okay, I think I might be in the right place. I'm going to keep scrolling. And if they can scroll that cursor or the mouse wheel, whatever, the thumb, even just a little bit, that's actually a huge conversion of itself, because a lot of people, they can just land on your website and bounce immediately. So number 2, limit their options. This is all about bringing your visitors on a clear journey. So what you could do if you wanted a brand buster is use a complex menu with a lot of links. And I think I see this a lot. This is probably, if you had to do one thing right now on your website, look at this. This is a pretty quick win, because when you land on a website and you have a ton of options at the top that don't really serve the whole journey of where you want them to go, there are too many distractions vying for their attention. Very easily, they can get overwhelmed. They could either be like, okay, you know what, I'm not finding what I need quickly. This is too overwhelming. And they won't be rationally, logically thinking through this, but it's all our subconscious and our human behavior and psychology just feeling that. And we are such emotional beings that will respond on emotion versus logic, because our brains are always on autopilot responding to our environment. And that's why it's so important that for the brand booster, you use a simple navigation with the most important links. So what you want to do, easily identify what options are actually should be available. So you may have 10 pages on your website, but what top 3, maybe what top 4 pages are really going to serve them in getting them to take that action, that desired call to action? And think about, okay, what's going to serve them in the journey? Because once they land on those priority pages, from there you can lead them on to those subsequent steps, bring them to those other pages and add more value if that's what they're seeking. Give them way too much on the homepage, you've lost a good chunk of your visitors, and that's a low converting website, and we don't want that. So like I said, they are more likely to visit a page that is relevant to your website objective when you have clear links, because then they're clicking maybe an about, services, or book now or buy now, or your products, whatever it may be. And from there, they're more likely to get the most important first, the most important message first, so that then they're hooked in, you've reeled them in. Now they're like, okay, I'm willing to spend a little bit more of my time to learn more about the other aspects, the other pages, the other content. Okay, number 3, for bringing your visitors on a journey, tell them what to do. So Brand Buster, as I've touched on, call to actions, it's really a button or a link that gets the user to take a desired action. When we talk about the primary call to action on a website, that's really you figuring out, again, the number one ultimate thing you want them to do on your website. That's the primary call to action you want on your website repeated all throughout. So a brand buster is you have lots of different call to actions that do different things, maybe even the same call to action. Buy now is a different color over here, a different size over here, or maybe you don't even use call to actions and you just have information. So those are definitely brand busters. But on the flip side, the brand booster is using clear, consistent call to actions. As I've mentioned, identify the main website objective and related action, and figure out how you visually want to style and place that button, make it bold, make it stand out, figure out a unique color for that. Don't use it anywhere else. So that way, as they scroll through, they're presented with that repetition and an opportunity to take action. Because I'm trying to think of it. Brené Brown said the quote, unclear is unkind, clear is kind. And I wholeheartedly agree. And she was talking about human relationships, but I do believe that plays a role in our business and our consumers too. So let's be kind to our customers. Let's be kind to our clients. Bring them on that clear journey. Make it really clear, you know, even if they're not ready to take that action, what we do expect of them, because human behavior craves that boundary, craves that kind of guidance, even if they're not going to take action on it. Sidebar, I know I got to make sure I wrap this up in time, but sidebar, there's a study that was put out a few years ago about kindergartners, and they noticed that if they put a bunch of kindergartners in a field with no fence, the kindergartners just kind of huddled together and they didn't really enjoy the whole expansive space of the yard. But then they tried the same group of kids in a new environment, same exact size, the same park lot area, and they put a border of fence around it. Now the kids spread out and enjoy the whole area. And so I encourage you to think about that in terms of your website or any marketing. Give them boundaries, because people feel more secure and are more apt to explore when you do that. So summary, bring your visitors on a journey, make the first impression count, limit their options, and tell them what to do. All right, so number 2, actually, before I move on, this is a very important stat that I'm going to share with you. 96% of visitors that come to your website are not ready to buy. So I know I was talking about the call to action buttons, and ultimately the action you want them to take is going to either lead to a sale or is one of the first steps to lead to a sale, like book a call with you. But most website visitors that land on your site are actually not even ready to make that big, huge leap. And so that's why it's so important, like I mentioned with the kindergartners, to give those boundaries, because if they're not ready to buy and you're not giving structure, they're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel emotionally comfortable to explore your website in a clean and concise way. So that's why repetition, clear next steps helps, because for those who are on the fence, which is most of your website visitors, you're putting them at ease. And again, people don't logically think about these things when they land on a website, but it's all going on in your brain when you do land on a website. So the second area to focus on when boosting your brand with your website is foster a human-centric experience. So what that means is people want to buy from people. Sure, there might be a business you're representing or a larger corporation or company, but people crave that connection. They want to buy from people with similar visions and values. It's just human nature. They want to feel like they have a purpose in life, that even their purchasing decisions can have an impact in their personal life or even do the world good. And if they feel like there's positive influence, whether it's for themselves or others, they're more apt to make that next step, even on your website. And consumers want to know how you fit into their story. Humans are innately self-centered. We think about our own needs and desires. And so rather than trying to fight that, lean into it, acknowledge it. If you write your copy from a very purely company-centric focus, you will lose out on the impact of relying on that natural, innate human behavior that actually can be very powerful to show them and see what's possible and what they can do through your offer, through your product, through your business. And I am a firm believer of the story brand philosophy. Not sure if you've heard of the book. It's by Donald Miller. Definitely recommend that you read about it, look into it. There's even, I think, a 5-minute video online. And it's very much the premise of you are not the hero in your customer's story. You are the guide. So our human emotions, our stories, our experience, it makes us unique as a human race, as humans. So speak to that, lean into that, acknowledge the human in your brand, in your business, by showing up as human in your own website and brand as well. Okay, so what does that look like tangibly with our brand busters and brand boosters? One, focus on the transformation. So if you want to do a brand buster, that means simply focusing on the features and the deliverables. So, well, you're going to get like 5 pages of copy, or you're going to get 2 chocolate bars. Features, deliverables don't inspire. In fact, most people, if they're honest with themselves, that's not the most important thing that they're interested in, hooking them and getting them intrigued and interested. So a list isn't going to be what's going to get me to, a list isn't going to speak to my deepest desires and needs. It's factual, it's informational, but again, we're not leaning on the human-centric experience that can help boost our brand and boost our sales. So what the brand booster is then, you're sharing the outcome. You're sharing the transformation. What is the positive experience they're going to have through your product or service? And what are the problems solved? So it means your copy should be results driven. Again, not features, not deliverables. What impact is it going to have? So if you're saying you're going to help them feel less stressed, that's the way to speak to the transformation versus, yeah, I'm going to organize your accounting and, you'll get an audit, things like that. Again, factual and true. But if you look at the transformation, they're going to have less stress and more peace in their life. And that's what's going to draw them in. And on that note, when we talk about like our transformation, we want to make sure that every aspect of our website speaks to that transformation, the imagery, the visuals, all of it should be telling, like I said, that collective story. So you might love like skydiving and you're trying to show off your personality, but if the transformation is like less stress, please don't put like a skydiving picture, because again, our human behavior, our human nature, images do speak 1,000 words, and we're going to pick up on that energy. It's not going to match the energy of the copy. There's going to be that disconnect. And again, we kind of breed mistrust and people will leave your website because it doesn't seem trustworthy. Number 2, for fostering a human-centric experience, you want to speak their language. So on the brand buster side, that means you can use insider language, jargon, technical terms, even sound pretty corporate sounding. If we have to be real with ourselves, we are not just conglomerate businesses. We are entrepreneurs. If you do have a background in corporate and you know me personally, I recently actually quit my corporate job to go full-time in my entrepreneur journey, which has been going really well, super thankful. But I've had to kind of detox from that 10-year kind of sprint in my corporate world, because you have to assimilate yourself. Your identity really doesn't matter within the greater company, and you kind of lose a sense of who you are. So that's not at all how you want your audience to feel. Again, we're entrepreneurs. We have a big vision. We have these values. We want to change the world. Let that come through. If you're using insider language or jargon or technical terms, you're you're excluding people rather than bringing them in, and I know that's not the heart of what you're all about. So what that means is to boost your brand, you want to use your audience's language. Use clear terms, not too wordy, not too verbose, but also do market research. Talk to your ideal clients, your target market. Talk to them, ask them questions. Give them offer them a gift card for a free coffee or something and say, hey, I'd love to just chat with you for 15 minutes. Like, do you mind me asking you questions? Listen to what they have to say. They're going to share their struggles, their problems, and they're going to use phrases and words. And you want to pick up on that and use that in your own marketing, in your own website copy. So number 3 for fostering a human-centric experience is you want to show off your personality. Brand buster, use inconsistent. So maybe it has this kind of personality over here and this personality over here. Maybe it's dry here, maybe it's fun here. Or use bland copy. Again, maybe that very corporate, serious tone. There is a way to use personality even if you are serious, because serious is a personality. It's about finding what is aligned to you and your brand and your business and making sure that's reflected in your business. So the brand booster is infusing personality into your messaging. Think about how you want your audience to feel. Think about how you want to sound, and then figure out what the overlap is. And that can help you identify what your brand voice is and how to relate that into your copy. So when you're able to do that, then you're telling a collective story. Your message matches the transformation. Your personality matches the vibe and experience of what you have to offer. When all of that works together to tell one story, people will trust you. And when they trust you, they stay on your website. When they trust you, they're more likely to, again, look at other pages, stay on the website longer, and take that next action. So again, think about how you want your audience to feel and work and develop on that, and leverage human behavior to foster that human-centric experience within your website. And everything I'm talking about today even applies not even to your website. So the general ideas apply to every aspect, whether you're doing email marketing or anything like that. But today we're just specifically kind of saying, well, how can we make this work for a website? So our last section, tackle their FUDs. I wonder if anyone knows what that is. FUDs. Has anyone seen it? You can mention in the chat if you have. Let's see. No? All right. So FUDs are fears, uncertainties, and doubts. So when you're able to tackle their FUDs on a website, you're able to build trust. And when you build trust, it builds a bridge between your business and your customer. And that's such a huge gap. And trust is what's going to get them over there. So let's recap what we've covered through. So when we talk about bringing your visitors on a clear journey, it helps them to get to know you. They're starting to get a feel for you, what you have to offer. And that's kind of that first step in the know, like, trust factor. When you include the human aspect, human-centric experience in your website, then they're getting to like you. They're like, wait, this is my kind of person. This is my kind of business. Like, I can get behind that. So they're starting to like you. And so now we want them to trust you, because when they trust you, you keep their attention longer. They're engaged. And 95% of consumers base their loyalty and buying decisions on trust. Again, it's very much an emotional thing. I'm not suggesting we're preying on that kind of vulnerability, because sometimes it can be. But when you come from a heart and a place to serve, naturally you're going to focus on, okay, well, how do I put them at ease and let them know that this is for their benefit? So number 1, meet them where they are when you want to tackle their FUDs. Talk like if you want a brand buster, talk like you're the only and best solution. I kind of see this a lot too. I know we're trying to pump ourselves up, but it comes off as very insincere. It's really tough to take you at face value, or your business at face value, if you position yourself as only strengths, we're the only solution, everybody else stinks. Again, very insincere. You're going to breed mistrust, which is the last thing you want to do when it comes to website conversions. So the brand booster aspect is you want to empathize with your audience. You want to put yourself in their shoes and figure out what they're feeling. Put yourself in their mind, heart, and figure out what the target audience generally is experiencing. That way you can acknowledge where they're at so you can build trust. Because when someone lands on your website and they're like, wow, she just articulated my problem like right then and there. Like, obviously, maybe she has the solution for me, or maybe she's been there herself and she has something for me. So it's all about, again, acknowledging where they are, meet them where they're at, so that it starts to build that trust factor. Number two, be their guide and not their hero. So you heard me touch on that brand story philosophy. This is where that all ties in. So the brand busters, you can harp on their problems. I've seen this too, very like we think, oh, okay, we need to harp on their pain points. And so then you go on and on about, you know, what they're struggling with and how it's not working for them. And you're kind of building a negative association with your brand when you harp on that and you don't quickly then lead into, okay, well, where is their hope? And so that's the brand booster element. You don't want them feeling inadequate, because if you get them feeling like, well, it's hopeless, like this is like pointless, what's the point? Then you've kind of lost the lead and the sale there, because now they won't open their eyes to see what's possible. But if you give them hope, you're opening their eyes and saying, it's possible. You can come out of this on the other side the victor, and I can show you how. So again, when giving them that hope, when having that human-centric experience, speak to them directly. It's common that we say I in our copy, and we talk about it from our perspective, our opinion, or we'll say we for the greater company. But again, we're not the hero, we're the guide. So I'm going to talk to you directly. You're struggling to keep your finances in check. The numbers are just overwhelming. It's okay. We've all been there. See how I'm now acknowledging and meeting where you are, but I'm addressing you personally, and I'm going to show you now what's possible. It's possible to get out of that fog and focus on what you do best in your business and enjoy your business again. See, you're giving them hope for what's possible, and it's not about, well, I'm the greatest, my business is the best, my service is amazing, but showing them they have what it takes. They just need that little puzzle piece to get them to that next space and kind of the next step in either their life, their experience, or their business. And the last one, prove your value. All right, so this all has to do with testimonials. So if you want a brand buster, just have one blanket page of long-winded testimonials that reads like a novel. Remember, you're trying to bring them on a journey. You haven't invited them to dissect an essay. So this is not very helpful in terms of building trust. So what you want to do is really create periodic and thoughtful testimonials. And what I mean by periodic is they're kind of like, it's sprinkled here, sprinkled there. On the homepage, we've got a few. On the services, on the products page, and products should always have testimonials and reviews if possible. And you're sprinkling them. You're not overwhelming them and putting a huge laundry list. And you're also wanting to kind of condense it down to what speaks to the transformation. You want to subtly remind them of how you can deliver on the value, because you then are kind of eliminating that distrust. And you're showing them that, okay, other people have had that experience. They've had a good experience, like maybe this could work for me. So one last thing I want to touch on when it comes to your testimonials, especially when you're starting out, it can be tough to get reviews or testimonials. But as you start to build on them, try to cull and curate them. You attract what you put out. So if you're trying to target, let's say, moms, but your testimonials are all like small business owners or entrepreneurs, you're losing out on that kind of personal trust building element. If I'm a mom, I land on your website and I'm reading about a testimonial where a mom had this transformation and I have the same problem with what the mom was having, I'm gonna think, whoa, like she had the same problem as me and look what she got. Okay, maybe this can work for me. And you've now built that trust because you've delivered results for someone in a similar situation. So again, while I always say brand from the inside out, it isn't still important to know who you're really trying to target and speak to, because you still want to create that experience where everything is consistent. You're not kind of trying to attract 1,000,001 different people. You're very specific on who you're talking to so that they are more apt to trust you and take that next step on your website. So that's tackling their FUDs, meet them where they are, be their guide, not their hero, prove your value. So I wanted to kind of just show you one slide of all of that summarized. Take a snapshot if you need to. I believe this will be online as well, and I can offer the slides to anyone as well. I believe if I pass it off to you, Ashley, you'll be able to provide them as well. But really, this is the summary of today's training in regards to how you can really leverage your brand to make a brand boosting website so that the whole experience is positive for your consumers, but also so that you boost your sales as well. Yes, Donald Miller, Story Brand. It's a book. Yeah, definitely look into him. He's got a website too. I think, like I said, he's got a video. It's pretty helpful to kind of, again, have a different perspective of how to approach your business. All right, yeah, perfect. We're already jumping into the questions. What platform, GoDaddy or Namecheap, would you use for an interactive site with lots of content, such as workout videos, cooking videos, and lots of articles? I need your help. All right, so without getting too lost in the technical, GoDaddy and Namecheap are actually, well, GoDaddy is hosting, domain. You can also get domain with Namecheap. I believe now they offer hosting as well. So the hosting aspect is different from the platform. So you've got Squarespace, you've got Wix, and those are all hosted by themselves. But if you're with GoDaddy, I think they do have a builder. I don't think Namecheap does, but usually for GoDaddy and Namecheap, you have to kind of bring your own platform, which is often called WordPress. And then for more product-based, there's Shopify as well. So really look at what your objectives are. If you don't have a website right now and you're still pretty early on, or you don't have the funds to really invest in like a strategic website, investing in the copy, in the brand photography, all that, really start small. I would even see like maybe you just have one page of a website. So find a builder like Squarespace, even Wix. They're not ideal for the long term, but for when you're just starting out, you just want to be able to have that small touch point. And when it comes for product-based, yeah, Shopify is the best, and you can use other solutions. And why I say the best, only because if you're not technical and you're okay with working within the confines of what their platform has to offer, Shopify is a great solution, especially if you're not techie. There are extra fees associated with all your purchases and a monthly fees. What I personally use for my clients is WordPress. It can feel kind of daunting and overwhelming for my clients, but I do generally use a page builder so they can modify if need be. But WordPress is really powerful because you can have absolute customization. And when it comes to brand boosting and brand building, we don't want to look cookie cutter. We want to make sure that as your business grows, you do have that foundation. And WordPress really allows you to scale and grow. And you can introduce products and things like that through WordPress, but that's another story, and it relies on your personal kind of business objectives. My site is WordPress with Namecheap, but it's very slow. Yes, so slow websites are going to kill your conversions too. You do want a faster website. So maybe before we wrap up, I'll kind of summarize. There's different hosting. So there's shared hosting, and then you can pay for more premium hosting, which is dedicated. Shared is the most common one. I really recommend staying away from GoDaddy. They really charge a lot. They are the industry kind of bully because they've done a great job marketing, and everybody knows GoDaddy, but they're not that great customer service support, and they charge a lot for what they deliver. And so if you really want something fast, there's two ways of doing it, kind of upgrading to faster hosting, which is like dedicated or VPS, or looking at maybe your theme. If it's WordPress, oftentimes themes are very resource intensive and they're not optimized. And so there's tons of images. You want to make sure you're optimizing your images. Like there is so much that just can go into that. I could spend a whole hour just talking about that. But yeah, like Lorianne, if you want, you can reach out to me personally and maybe I can give some personal tips. But all right, maybe I think we can fit in one more question if you have it. All right, perfect, great, Lorianne. Okay, so before we wrap up, I did want to invite you that if you thought today's training was valuable, even if you don't have a website, or if you do, I do offer a free brand health checkup. And so it's really goes through the anatomy of a thriving brand and where you kind of can begin and the questions you can ask yourself to really see, is your brand thriving, or maybe is it a little unhealthy? Because again, that foundation of having a strong brand is going to help you in social media, your website, all aspects. And so it kind of goes a little bit more into what I talked about at the beginning of the presentation. So thank you again, everyone.
Thank you for being a guest in this presentation. If you would like to book an appointment with us here at the Business Advisory Center Durham, just follow the information right on the closing slide, and we look forward to seeing you.